Well, hi everyone. Monday, the 23rd of December, 2 days before Christmas. You'll probably see this on Christmas Eve. Our last show for the year, John. Great to see you back on, mate, as always.
Never say never, Hoodie. Anything's possible.
Well, that's true. And joining us tonight, we have the wonderful Dr. Melissa McCann from up in the Whitsundays. Welcome to the program, Melissa.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on again, Hoodie and John. Lovely to see you both.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. Now, I did say it's the last program for the year, but we do have a couple of irons in the fire. Namely, we're hoping to have Dr. John Campbell on, and we're just trying to finalise times. And if that happens while we're having our break, believe me, we'll bring you Dr. John Campbell. But in the meantime, let's get into this because there's a whole lot happening around this whole experimental GMO that we've been raving on about for 4 years. And we want to unpack that with you, Mel, because you did a freedom of information on some various aspects, which we want you to unpack. But before you do, I want to read out to you all a letter that's just gone out from Russell Broadbent, the member for Monash, the independent member for Monash. And that's gone out to Anthony Albanese, Mark Butler, and Professor Tony Lawler, the Deputy Secretary of the HPRG. And I'll read that out to you now. Dear Prime Minister, Minister Butler and Professor Lawler, it is with the utmost urgency that I write on the eve of this Christmas break to alert you to the attached letter from lawyer Miss Katie Ashby Coppins and 62 co-signatories regarding additional evidence of synthetic DNA contamination in the Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines. New evidence confirms the presence of synthetic DNA contamination in the bloodstreams of 75 participants who had exclusively received Pfizer-BioNTech BNT162b2 and or Moderna mRNA 1273 vaccines. The science summary I provided to you on the 25th of September 2024 specifically warned of the risks of genomic integration and replication. Despite mounting evidence, the TGA has consistently sought to dismiss concerns about this DNA contamination as misinformation. However, with the confirmation of synthetic DNA contamination in Australian blood samples, the dismissive stance is no longer tenable. Instead of dismissing concerns, the TGA must now confront the data and respond transparently. I urge you to engage the most qualified body of experts, including the Chief Medical Officer and Gene Technology Technical Advisory Committee, to obtain comprehensive science-based evaluations of the emerging evidence. As noted by Ms. Ashby Coppins, these issues transcend political divisions and demand a united, evidence-based response and swift and decisive action to safeguard public health and restore confidence. I look forward to your earliest response. Yours sincerely, Russell Broadbent, Federal Member for Monash. That's quite a letter.
It's a great letter.
That's a great letter. So there's a whole lot more stuff coming out, Mel. We've just been talking before we press record of a new study that's been revealed by whistleblowers who are participating in this study at Yale University, which is coming out saying basically that they're studying a large group of people who have not had COVID-19. They haven't had the virus, but being vaccinated, they're loaded with spike protein. They haven't had the virus. This is pretty frightening. Now, we'll talk about your class action towards the end of the program, Mel, but you did a freedom of information on the TGA. Can you reveal what all that was about and tell us what the findings were?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, that study in the Lancet, it is really concerning findings because you have to wonder how the spike protein is still being produced, or is it not being broken down? Like, there's just so many unanswered questions with that. And I guess I had some unanswered questions with what prompted my freedom of information request was the TGA's response to the sort of Port Hedland effort. And so that was prompted by international expert Dr. David Speaker, who I understand was engaged to provide expert opinion for the court case in regards to the GMO matter that was being run by Dr. Fidge. And so he provided an expert report and an independent analysis that did confirm residual, what they call the plasmid DNA, so the DNA that was used to produce the mRNA. And he found residual, I guess what they're calling contamination of that within the vaccines above the TGA's own accepted limit. And that's what prompted the effort in Port Hedland, which I think, got a bit of media attention when the Premier, I think quite disrespectfully suggested everyone go back to their knitting. And those concerns were really being dismissed, but there was a effort from the Port Hedland Council to basically say, well, as a council, do we have a role to write to the Prime Minister and suggest that, raise these issues again? And the TGA responded with a public, one of their public media releases. And it was I just found it really, dismissive of these new findings, dismissive of this expert report. And it just seemed to be another reiteration of the same thing that we've been hearing, that I guess, Russell Broadbent just also put in his letter there, that no matter what concerns are raised, they're just being met with dismissal and downplaying. And so I was curious to know who had authored that media release. Like, what was the basis for that? Was there scientific opinion that was requested for that? Were the sponsors involved? I wondered if perhaps this might be a little bit like the media release after the Norway deaths in the nursing homes early in 2021, when Pfizer was involved in sort of drafting that media release, and I think downplaying it. That's certainly what the Freedom of Information documents suggest for that one. So I wondered if the sponsors were also involved in this one. So I made a request for the kind of the communications, the correspondences, what discussions had been had behind the drafting of that media release. And I was actually quite surprised to see that, well, first of all, there seemed to be no involvement from the sponsors. So this was all discussions within the biological sciences section of the TGA and people within the Department of Health and TGA. And what I find really, I guess, alarming about it is that someone, and anyone can read who this person was. I just won't name names, but the Freedom of Information emails and documents are all on the TGA public disclosure log. So a person within the TGA had initially drafted a media release, and it was, again, along the same lines as what they all seem to be, reassuring that there is no risk of genome integration, there's no possibility that these can cause cancer, etc. And then it appears that there was then some internal discussion within members of the scientific section, and some of the commentary that came back, I think, raises alarm bells, where essentially they said, look, you better tone down the wording on that. That might be a little speculative, because there are a number of mechanisms for genome integration, and it hasn't actually been tested. So let's tone down the reassurances on that one. And then there was commentary on the SV40, which in fact, it's disclosed within these emails that, in fact, the sponsor did not disclose the SV40 within the plasmid, which I just think it's an outrage. And then there was other commentary on specifically the cancer risk, where, again, the suggestion was, look, tone down the reassurances, perhaps take this sentence out or that sentence out, because, in fact, there are a number of mechanisms for oncogenesis, or the development of cancer. I mean, I just don't think in any way the public, that has been communicated to the public, because throughout the entire time, even to today, even with that media release, the assurance has been, what a ridiculous idea to suggest that there's the possibility for genome integration. It's nothing but conspiracy theory to suggest these vaccines could cause cancer. And yet, not only has the TGA now confirmed to have heard this from international experts, but even experts within their own sciences division, in fact, confirming that those are real risks. Certainly, they were qualifying that to say these are small risks, but this is still a risk, and I don't think that's been communicated at all. And when you take that when you take that picture in conjunction with the cancers that have been reported to the TGA, so on the TGA DAEN database, there's an alarming number of cancers that have been reported, well exceeding the proportionality reporting ratios for other vaccines. And in fact, there were metastatic cancers within the clinical trial. So just within that 2 to 6 month safety trial period from the Pfizer vaccines, where they were monitoring the healthy and screened trial volunteers, developed a number of metastatic cancers. I think it was metastatic lung, biliary, perhaps prostate cancer. And that's, sure, it was a group of 40,000 people, but to develop a metastatic cancer within a short period of time, that's a safety signal, I think. It should be investigated in conjunction with all of this information, including the increased rate of cancer deaths and cancer mortality within Australia. It's painting a really concerning picture of, in fact, an increase in cancers that may well be from the vaccines.
Johnny, it seems that there are people within the TGA who are smelling a rat in the cheese factory. Are we reading that right, Mel? There are some people in there who are saying we better start playing this game a little bit better. I mean, I know I was talking to somebody the other day who is very heavily involved in all this stuff, who has had contact with people within the TGA who are concerned. There are people within the TGA who are saying they're not happy with the way this is all being portrayed.
Well, I don't think you could be a scientist or even a human being within the TGA and not be concerned. I can only imagine the number of emails and phone calls and because, I know of the number of people with absolutely horrific stories of their vaccine injuries, and they have been diligently reporting this to the TGA, sending updates on their cases, asking what investigation has happened into their case, receiving confirmation that absolutely no investigation has happened into their case. And I think, to be working within the TGA as a professional, as many of them are, I can't even imagine actually what that would have been like for the last few years. And I hope people will start to come forward, because it's just absolutely outrageous to think that they receive this information from their own scientific advisors who are clearly aware of these risks, and then press on anyway with producing yet another falsely reassuring media release to the public.
What are your thoughts, John?
Well, the concern to me is, Hoodie, I mean, the TGA historically has overreacted to numerous other issues. Now, I mean, it might be a vitamin pill that's caused a rash, and everything's been taken off the shelf. I mean, and here you've got 140,000 people have reported an injury, grossly underreported, no doubt. And they don't even have the manpower to respond to all these people, to write to them. But there's nothing to see here. I mean, I mean, I know that they're good people. There's obviously something gone on inside there. I mean, my cousin is the doctor that's speaking to Gerard Rennick in these Senate estimates, Dr. Claire Larder. She's now the acting secretary of drug, whatever it is, answering Gerard's questions. I mean, I know she's a beautiful person. She's a beautiful human being.
Yeah.
As to what's gone wrong inside there, I don't know. They're obviously being told what to do, and look, they've just got to let their conscience come clean and stand up. I mean, like we have. I mean, it would have been very easy for all of us to roll over and play the government narrative on this, and we would have been all the better for it financially and socially and all the other reasons. But it's not the right thing to do, Hoodie. I mean, it's not fair because this one lie is going to propagate into something horrific.
While the authorities and the powers that be are protecting their early stance on all of this, they're protecting their butt. they're preventing the vital work that's required to get vaccine injured people better, aren't they, Mel?
That is a huge issue because while this sort of, I don't even know what do you call it, running interference, dismissal, whatever it is absolutely interfering with the care for patients who are suffering from these adverse events. It's interfering with them, making the ones that have attempted to go through the vaccine scheme, who had enormous amount of difficulty because there was just so much pushback on this idea of, well, how can you prove that's from the vaccine? I mean, and that's been really the argument to justify these 140,000 adverse event reports at 1,000 deaths, just to sort of say, well, we haven't proven that that's related to the vaccine. And so that sort of, rhetoric and is really interfering with people's care. It's interfering with their financial circumstances and their ability to heal and move on from this. And I just think, I don't know where the humility that should be found within medicine has gone, because there is so much within history that tells us how wrong doctors can be, experts can be, scientists can be. Our very first understanding of infection control, speaking of infectious illness and viruses, came from Dr. Semmelweis, who was the first person to discover that the need for hand washing and antisepsis, and that doctors' basically dirty hands from doing autopsies was killing women because they would walk straight from performing an autopsy to doing a delivery. And that took such a long time for that to be accepted by the medical community back then. And when I think of that situation, I think there's a lot of parallels here, because at that time, it was something like 1 in 5 women that were dying in childbirth. So I think any doctor, any gynecologist working at that time in that era would have had people close to them who had died. They would have family members who'd been left widows and children that were left motherless. And then to have to accept as a doctor that they were part of the cause of that, I just wonder if maybe some of that psychologically is coming into what's happening now, because there are just so many people who have suffered such horrific vaccine injuries. And, I know of many doctors, many within the profession. And so it wouldn't surprise me if there's a number of people within the TGA who know of people who've been severely injured. And the idea that you've played a big part in that, what has happened to people that you care about, that would be very difficult to face, but it's just well beyond time to be facing that.
And Mel, Tony Nikolic in the last 48 hours has blown the lid on out-of-date vaccines, COVID vaccines being administered to children and adults. I mean, by any governance standards, I mean it's the golden rule in medicine that if you're going to give a drug, you check it and you double check it. You get someone else to double check it. I mean that is just without saying, that's what's done. There's so many reviews of drug administration errors that there's so much governance in that space. I mean, how does this? I mean, even if you said these vaccines are safe and effective, which they obviously are not. I mean, how do you give out-of-date drugs on such a massive scale?
Look, John, I think it partly comes down to the really abnormal governance over the vaccine program. So the COVID vaccine program was not run as part of the national immunisation program. And the national immunisation program, I agree with you, there's a huge amount of governance and oversight, and there's a lot of care in regards to expiry dates and everything else. And this was just run so differently. I don't actually know how legally that was sort of funded or how it came about that way, but it was run entirely separate to that. And what happened was that as the batches began to reach their expiry, we would then get emails through to say, we've extended the expiry of these following batches. And so somehow, and there was no discussion of the evidence behind this or whether the batches had been somehow analysed or how they determined that now they could simply extend an expiry date. And yet that happened extremely frequently. So multiple batches were just extended and then extended and then extended. And it's like, okay, well, you don't want to. Maybe they were trying to avoid waste as these millions of vaccines were reaching their expiry date, but what was the evidence for that? Was it safe to be injecting what had been an expired vaccine to simply say, oh, we're extending the expiry? I mean, I can't recall any product ever where an expiry date has simply been extended once it's been marketed and distributed.
And the quality control here has obviously just been, disregarded. There is no question. I remember seeing media reports to begin with about how these things had to be transported in these freezers at -70 and whatever else. And then suddenly they're ending up in eskies that you'd take to the cricket, that you'd buy at Bunnings.
At Bunnings, that's right.
Just madness.
Yeah, exactly. From -70 ultra cold freezers to in an esky outside of Bunnings in a car park. How? Yeah.
Yeah, our own local medical practice here where I live, they had boxes of these vials sitting on their desk at room temperature all day long while they were jabbing people. They weren't even in a fridge.
Yeah, well.
The only refrigeration they had there, apart from the one they put their lunch in, was a bar fridge under the desk of the doctor. Look, let's really summarise this. It's been a big year. Let's summarise it by saying this. The evidence, especially in the last 6 months, is overwhelming. I mean, the only reason this isn't blowing the lid off everything is the mainstream media are not reporting it. There's no energy behind getting this information out there. But the evidence is clear and the evidence is mounting, and there's more and more work being done to bring forth the dangers involved in these mRNA gene therapies. It will not be locked away. It will not be hidden forever. And there are people within the TGA, we know, and in other organisations who are struggling with their conscience. And we want you to know that if you are in the TGA or any other organisation, ATAGI, APRA, and you know that something's not right, you know it. We know you know it because you're saying it. We will give you anonymity. If you come to us, we will broadcast your concerns. We'll make sure, we'll put you to air if you want to, but we will make sure that your concerns are aired and put out as far and wide as we can actually make it. It's got to the stage where people are just going to have to own up and say, we've really screwed the pooch on this. Now is the time. At the end of 2024, now is the time to come clean, because you will not be able to hold this back. The science is overwhelmingly in favour of these things. People are calling it a bioweapon. I agree with them. I actually agree with them. I think we can call it that now.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Hoodie, to see who else can come forward, what other information people can bring, because I imagine there's a lot of people out there who feel wrong about what's happened and what's happened to so many people and don't want to be a part of it and want to do the right thing. So I think providing that sort of platform is really important.
Yeah, let's do that. We can. I know you've got to go, Mel. It's nearly Christmas and everything, and we really appreciate you giving us your time. So we will be following this up. I think we ought to get Philip Altman on to discuss this as well. He's got friends in the TGA, and I'm sure that some of them are expressing concern to him. I think the findings of Dr. Speaker is rattling a few people, and that's evident in the FOI information you got, Mel. Reiterate that once again. There are people inside the TGA telling those writing the press releases to back off and not be too blasé about this, because there are some concerns. That's basically what it says.
That's right. That's basically what it says. And in fact, even it seemed genuinely, the person writing that media release seemed quite surprised to learn of this. Unfortunately, that person still went ahead with producing this media release. But hopefully there might be a bit of reflection on that to think about, okay, what the heck? How did we not know this? What are the potential risks? And let's review our data and just see the evidence that these risks are in fact being played out.
Absolutely. Well, before you go, Mel, we need to ask you about your class action. Give us a brief update on what's going on there.
Yeah, so where it's at now is we're waiting on the judge to decide the interlocutory application. So that was the application from the government, the TGA, the respondents, to have the action struck out, a summary dismissal. So there have been submissions from both sides in relation to that. There was a hearing down in Sydney the start of this month, and then now it all sits with Justice Katzman to make a decision on that application. So my hope is that she decides to decline that, and that this matter can move through to the proper trial that it deserves and a hearing of the evidence. So we'll hopefully know that maybe in the first quarter of the new year.
Well, we live in hope, Mel. John and I will continue on after you go, but I just want to say thank you so much on behalf of all Australians for what you've done. You've been a tireless fighter. You've been always generous with your time and your expertise. You put everything on the line for this. And we're glad you're still practicing, and we're glad that you're holding the line. You've got integrity plus, and we just love you to bits, Mel, and we thank you so much for everything you've done for us.
Oh, thank you, both of you, and for everything that you both do. You're both inspiring. And I wish you both a Merry Christmas and lovely New Year. And I'm sure 2025 will be the year that finally we break through.
Well, let's hope so. It's going to be an incredible year. So God bless you, Mel. Merry Christmas and enjoy that beautiful home.
Thank you so much. God bless.
Okay.
Guys, bye.
Well, Johnny, there you have it. I mean, what more can we say? The TGA knows.
Mm.
They know, John.
Yeah, well, I'd say they've known from the start, Hoodie. It just is unbelievable that there's such a tsunami of evidence now, and we haven't got one jurisdiction in Australia, not one police authority, no one that wants to have a look at what's going on. It really is. It's the biggest scandal. It's easy to say this, isn't it? But it really is the biggest scandal in history.
It really is. It is globally the biggest scandal in history. I mean, 2025 is going to be incredibly interesting in more ways than one.
Mm.
We don't want to be doom and gloom, but 2025, there's a lot of potential for what could possibly go wrong, John. You couldn't make this
Well,
stuff up.
and Hoodie, they've likely murdered more people than any of the wars combined,
Yeah,
but they don't want to look at it.
it is murder.
Murder.
It is absolute murder. I'm convinced there is a depopulation agenda. Everyone's saying that. All the credible scientists are saying that. They're all saying this is a depopulation agenda, and this you can't help but describe it in any other way than this is genocide,
Mm.
and it's been perpetrated on all the people on the planet. And uh, I mean, it's hard to even comprehend we're saying this, John.
Yeah, well, it's sad that nobody will investigate it from a policing point of view. It needs an investigation. The coroners need to come out and say, well, how is it that our decisions are being overturned by some quasi organisation downtown that haven't even inspected the bodies?
Yep.
I mean, that on its own is just beyond belief. That these people think that they can. They're essentially murdering people, and then they're saying, "Oh no, nothing to see here. It's natural causes."
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we await the new year with bated breath, John, and everyone goes off and does their thing for 3 or 4 weeks, and nothing fires up in this country till February. Um, so let's keep our fingers crossed. There's some big things happening next year. Um, let's review the year that was. How have you seen the last year from a Club Grubbery perspective, mate?
Well, look, Hoodie, I think we've been in the box seat to view it all, and we've been very fortunate and privileged to be able like so many others, tell the stories of all these very brave people that have spoken up and spoken out about what's happening. And when you look at it from point of view of we've had uh, nurses, we've had doctors, we've had people that not even in the healthcare industry, and then we've had people that are probably the most revered professors in the world on the program. It's it goes from one spectrum to the other, and it doesn't matter how qualified they are. They tell their stories, and they resonate with people out there for different reasons, and it's such an honor and a privilege to actually go into these people's houses and speak to them the way we do, and then for them to allow us to tell their story through social media is something pretty remarkable. I mean, to think that we're 500 plus episodes into Club Grubbery is a remarkable feat, and yeah, I'm really proud of what we've been able to achieve, Hoodie, and I know you are, and we love it. And I saw Mac did a halftime speech the other day on Twitter, which was really really nice. That I I thought back to the days when we were there fighting the good fight together. It was really really good.
Yeah, Max. I mean, we've enjoyed and built lifelong friendships that would never have happened if COVID hadn't come along. And
Mm,
Matt's one of those guys. There are so many. Our wonderful alliance with the AFA, the firefighters, with AMPS, with ACA, and John, we can announce. I think can we make an announcement?
Oh yeah, it's gone out now. Yeah.
It's gone out that you, Johnny Larder, have been appointed the chairman of the Aligned Council of Australia, and then
Mm,
this just goes to point to the caliber of who you are because you don't shy away from a fight. You always put your money where your mouth is. You run for election. You're involved in your local council. You've been a stalwart of the community all your life. And you and I were talking the other day. What are we going to do, John? Where are we going to take all this in the future? Why are we doing this? And the answer we both came up with is because we love being a voice for the people.
mm, mm,
And and I just want to get it across to everybody. You notice that we're not selling merchandise. You notice that we don't do funding appeals. We just rely on goodwill.
mm,
And believe me, things are pretty crook. And this isn't an appeal for money. We're not asking anyone for money, but anyone who thinks that the people involved in this space are doing this for money has got rocks in their heads.
mm, mm.
Because there's no way, no way. There's nothing to be earned out of all of this. This is all goodwill and love, and I tell you what, it's an honour to serve this country the way we're doing it, and to serve it together in the trench with wonderful people like Mac. And
Yeah.
I had a really good chat with Wade from Billboard Battalion yesterday, and I can tell you that he and I have had some differences. We have a different approach. We're approaching this battle one way, and he's approaching it another way. But I can tell you that man's heart is
Mm,
strong, and it's in the right space. And Michael's as well. Michael Gray Griffith, his heart is strong, and it's in the right place. And we could go on naming all of these people, and we're all in this because we want to make a difference in this country for our grandkids.
yeah. Yep. So
And
right.
we're all climbing the hill from different sides.
Mm. Well, I'll just relay a little bit of a story that Hoodie was telling me over the last few days about some of the beautiful people. I won't name them, but just beautiful people in the background that have got in touch with Hoodie, and Hoodie's been working tirelessly to help people that are doing it tough. in the background, and just pass on a little bit of a generous gift to those that are doing it tough. And that's just so beautiful of these people that they get in contact with us, and Woody's directed them to these people that a little gift at Christmas can make such a big difference to these people's lives and families, and to be able to do that, Woody, was wonderful, wasn't it? You were just so you were just so taken by being able to ring them and tell them the good news.
Yeah, well, look, I don't handle the money involved in that. I just, I'm acting like an agent. I connect some people every now and then with somebody who has got the means to support them through a very hard time, and we pray about it, and the details are shared, and these wonderful people are working in the background just every now and then just to help someone out, and that feels really good. And to be able to ring somebody and say, guess what? Um, how would you feel if this amount of money was dropped in your lap tonight? And have them say, oh man, that's an answer to prayer. And then to say, well, guess what? It's coming. Give me your bank details and it's coming. I mean, it's just, anyway, I mean, there's so much good going on. This is a beautiful country.
Mm.
Yeah, and look, there are a lot of people with means in this country that are putting it out there. And I know there's a tall poppy thing in Australia where, you bag out people who are rich and they drive a fancy car, they've got a fancy boat or whatever. But a lot of these are people who have realised in their younger years that the harder they work, the luckier they get. But they don't hoard it for themselves. They support good causes. Now, I can't mention their names, which is really sad,
Mm.
but I can understand why. And then you get guys like Adrian McRae, who is running a business and he's extended to the max. I'm sure he won't mind me saying that. And even though he's extended to the max running his business financially, he still funds events like the Great Debate and so many other things. He's pouring so much money and time and effort into making sure that we get the information we need and the right people get in touch with us. And then you've got the likes of Suzanne Burns, who has come on board recently as our production admin.
Yep.
Susie, you've been doing a great job, and then we've got Stuart Robertson in WA, who's a Scotsman with a lot of grey hair. I call him Sarge, and he's worked tirelessly through the year. Every time we produce something here and I edit it, I condense it and send it to Stuart, and he stays up all night making sure it gets out on all the platforms.
Mm. Mm.
And he is just a tireless worker. And all the Hoodies Heroes people, the admins, the management team, the local community group leaders, and the members. There's, I'm told, nearly 150 in New Zealand now that just started one
Wow.
up. So we are blessed,
Mm.
guys, and there is a beautiful community. Look, there is some argy-bargy going on. There's no doubt about that. And quite often there's too much time spent putting our bushfires within on our side of the fence that should be spent fighting the real enemy. So I implore everybody to cut us all a bit of slack. Stop considering that people are Freemasons and control opposition and all that sort of rubbish. Just cut everybody a bit of slack and let us all get on with the job together as a country and bring this country back to its feet.
Definitely. Mm.
So next year, who knows? Trump comes in on the 20th. We've been told by the new head of the guy that took Fauci's place, he's had a press conference, and apparently the next pandemic is happening on January 21 next year. How do they know? January 21, the day Trump's inaugurated, there'll be another pandemic, according to Anthony Fauci's replacement.
Wow.
I mean, you couldn't make that stuff up, John.
All the more reason to replace whoever that replacement is.
Exactly. And let's hope that Kennedy lives up to these to his the hype around him. And yeah, also I'm looking forward next year to going to the States. I've been invited over to speak at a Make America Healthy Again conference in Phoenix, 3,000 seat venue, which will be sold out. And Dr. Ben Carson is going to be speaking there, and I'll be on stage with him and various others. And there's a few things in the pipeline as well. That looks like expanding. And I think Michelle and I will probably be over there for the best part of a month, the way it's shaping up. So a lot to talk about next year about that. We're going to make a lot of really good contacts while we're over there. New Zealand was fantastic, John. We had a great time in New Zealand, didn't we?
Well, we had a great time there, Hoodie, and hopefully, you know, the contacts you make over in US, geez, there'll be some great interviews. Hopefully, when you get back.
Some great interviews. Yeah, it's amazing. People watch Club Grubbery over there, and a lot of people saw the great debate in America, which I think led to some the invitation that came for me to go over. But we wait and see what happens. There's a lot of good things to come, and we all need to keep our powder dry and stay sensible.
Definitely.
Remember, don't get all hung up about the stuff you can't change.
Yep.
Just focus on the stuff that we can fix, and don't spend your life down rabbit holes so that you're mining for darkness. You get out in the light. Enjoy the country we got while we still got it.
Exactly.
Should we have a prayer, Johnny?
We should.
Might do the serenity prayer. A lot of people are asking for that. Dear Lord Father in heaven, please grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace. Taking as Jesus did this sinful world as it is and not as I would have it, and trusting that you will make all things right, Lord, if we surrender to your will, so that we can be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. What do you reckon?
Well, I hope everyone has a very Merry Christmas, Hoodie. It's been a very long year, a tough year, and I think next year is going to be tougher again. So make the most of it. Spend time with your family. Thanks to everyone that's assisted us on Club Grubbery and been part of our family here. You make the program. We have a lot of fun doing it, and hopefully it brings a lot of joy to you guys out there. And we get a lot of feedback saying that you really enjoy it, and how many people, you know, it's been a lifeline to a lot of people. It's not foreign to us. We know that a lot of you are really dependent on what we're doing, and we're grateful that you're out there watching and sharing the content, so we can start to wake up what's going on in Australia and around the globe. It's only a small footprint we've got, but we do the best with the resources we've got, and hopefully it does make a difference. And you're all beautiful people out there, and we're very grateful. And yeah, I hope you have a safe and happy Christmas.
Yeah, you're great. There's no doubt about you. We've met hundreds of thousands of you. And yeah, we just love you. We just love you.
Apologies to all those people that have written and I haven't responded to.
Me too. Me too. I had a lovely guy, a Vietnam vet, write to me and say, "Oh, we've got to do this, we've got to do that," and I was a bit terse with him because we don't have the time. We just don't have the time and the resources to respond to every email and every message, and we're so sorry that we don't. It's just us, really. You know, Suzanne and Stuart are trying their best to work out how we can get more responses out, but hopefully next year something better. But we just love doing Club Grubbery, and we're going to keep doing it as long as we got breath in our lungs. And so I guess all I can say is to add to John's desire that you all have a very Merry Christmas and be with family. Make the most of family. It's really, really important. And you've often been heard to say, Johnny,
You just couldn't make this stuff up.
you couldn't make this stuff up. Stay out of the trees. And I love you, John, and I look forward to a great year with you next year, mate.
Good on you, mate.
See you all later. Have a great Christmas, and don't
Bye,
forget,
guys.
great country because you live in it. God bless you and bye for now.